The entire Han Nation operates like a well-oiled machine firing on all cylinders. While the chieftain plays matchmaker between his precision instrument nerds and heavy machinery geeks, the first wave of immigrants makes landfall. These aren't just settlers. They're a hand-picked special ops team of civilization, featuring a carpenter, a blacksmith who is secretly a spy, and a chef. Their first mission: introduce the locals to tofu pudding and the art of bartering, hilariously trading government-issued donkeys for pigs, sheep, and a few strategic alpacas. Upon arriving at their new village, they immediately begin transforming the community, teaching new farming techniques, and building workshops from scratch. Their culinary debut, however, is a mixed success. The tofu pudding is a flop, but pickled vegetables become an instant hit. Yet, this charming pioneer story is dwarfed by the sheer insanity unfolding elsewhere. A project of biblical proportions has begun, a 25-kilometer, double-decker, road rail bridge. Prisoners of war are literally moving mountains to fill the sea, blasting mountainsides and sinking countless sandbags to build a structure that utterly defies belief. The Daming era isn't just a plan. It's a full-scale symphony of creation. In the Grand Hall of Luoyang Commandery's rear courtyard, a damp, southern humidity mingled with the scent of old wood and fresh tea. A dust-covered figure flashed in, bringing with him the scorching sun and the faint smell of horse manure from the steps. With a thud, he dropped to his knees in a grand salute. Your humble servant, Yu Ji, commander of the Jinwu Guard, pays his respects to the chief. His voice was sonorous, though he was 3 shades darker and 2 sizes thinner, looking for all the world like a strip of beef jerky dried in the prairie winds. The boy, after nearly 2 years down south, had finally decided to come back. I sat there, calm and composed, not even shifting in my seat. I merely raised a hand lazily, gesturing for him to sit. Well, if it isn't Commander Yu. Rise, take a seat. Thank you, Chief. Yuji cupped his fists again before formally sitting down on the chair to my right, his back as straight as a ramrod, as if there were nails on the seat. A guard clattered down 2 cups of hot tea, white steam curling upwards. I picked up my cup and took a sip, the bitter taste of the tea leaves melting on my tongue. The steppe and bamboo island. Good work, I said, putting down my cup and offering some praise. You've saved the tribe a great deal of trouble. I'll remember this contribution. Yuji's heart swelled with pride. He'd already been promoted a rank in nobility. This time, the chief must have a new project for his trusted general. Promotion and fortune were just around the corner. Just as he was basking in the glory, my next words sent a jolt through him. Now that Bamboo Island is Han territory, the Xian tribe is dust, and that modern fellow is chewing grassroots underground. The Jinwu Guard seems a bit idle, I said, looking at him with a half-smile. So do you personally have any new ideas? Here it comes. The legendary leader asks what you think. Moment. A thin layer of sweat instantly beaded on Yuji's forehead. This was a trick question. To say no ideas would show a lack of ambition. To say, I have ideas, would sound like he was angling for a position. Too unseemly. He remembered that Yunji fellow, who had eagerly asked the chief for a commandery governor position and was now so miserable that even the dogs in his jurisdiction supposedly looked down on him for being poor. The mistakes of the past are a lesson for the future. Yuji's mind raced, quickly shifting the topic from what I want to do to what else I can do. Chief, he exclaimed, snapping to his feet. I believe we absolutely cannot let our guard down. Oh, I raised an eyebrow, my interest piqued. Explain. Has some new weed sprouted on the steppes? That shouldn't be. Half of the most fertile lands on the steppes now flew the Han tribe's flag. The secret bridge to Bamboo Island had long been dismantled by me under the guise of building a sea-crossing bridge. Even better, the entire steppe, if they wanted to buy salt or iron pots, had no one to turn to but us. They were completely at our mercy. Under these circumstances, who would dare to cause trouble? Weren't they afraid of me imposing economic sanctions, leaving them to cook without salt, eat with their hands, and fight with rocks? Yuji cleared his throat and began his report. Chief, since Maden's death, the biggest power on the steppes, besides us, is the Surita tribe. Surita, hasn't he always been pretty docile? Docile? Yuji gave a bitter smile. Chief, that guy is as cunning as a fox now. He's been bragging all over the steppes that he's our sworn brother, our closest ally, all because he helped us fight Maden. Using this as a front, he swallowed up numerous small tribes. His strength is now even greater than Maden's was last year. If he were to rally his forces, he could easily muster 40,000 cavalry. And Yuji's tone grew heavier. He's secretly counterfeiting. He has his subordinate tribes buy large quantities of ironware from us. Then they hammer and forge them into imitations of our stirrups and high-bridge saddles. He now has at least 10,000 sets. Even those too poor to afford iron have learned to use ropes and wood to make soft stirrups. This guy, his ambition is not small. Yuji's face was grim. Chief, although this man appears submissive on the surface, he is already a major threat. We must be on guard. I said nothing, merely tapping my knuckles rhythmically on the table. The tap, tap, Sound was exceptionally clear in the hall. As expected, the steppe was like a field of leeks. Cut one crop, and a more vigorous one will soon grow back. As long as the agricultural and nomadic lifestyles coexisted, conflict would be inevitable. I recalled the history of my previous life. The northern nomadic tribes were like a horde of unkillable cockroaches, harassing the Central Plains dynasties from the Western Zhou version all the way to the Great Qing version. Their persistence was truly astounding. Ultimately, it was a dead end of survival models. Agricultural civilizations could at least store grain. If they couldn't finish it this year, they could eat it next year. They could survive a bad year. But the nomadic tribes? All their assets were living things, and living things had to eat grass. A heavy snowfall would bury the grass, and poof, their bank savings, cattle and sheep, would start to die off in droves. If the snow was heavier, it would even crush their houses, tents. The whole family would huddle together with their dead livestock, shivering in the wind and snow. Who could stand that? What to do when you can't survive? Raid. A worthless life anyway. Charge into the homes of those two-legged sheep to the south. Anything you grab is a bonus. Even if you die, it's no great loss. So a once-and-for-all solution? Difficult. Unless I could turn the entire steppe into a giant pasture for the Han tribe. I would be the heavens. I'd let them graze peacefully, and I'd buy their cattle and sheep, allowing them to live good lives. In case of a blizzard, I'd airdrop fodder to help them through the crisis. As long as I could make them feel that working for me was more profitable and safer than raiding, wouldn't the enemy become my employees? Of course, carrots alone weren't enough. I had to continue to pacify, to digest those troublesome tribes one by one, making them put down their bows and pick up hoes, turning them from wolves into sheep. Then, I'd support a few obedient pasture managers to administer this steppe for me. In short, I want the steppe. Not only do I want it, but I also want the winds of this steppe to carry the scent of my Han tribe. Voiceover. Holy cow, the chief's brain works faster than a CPU. While others are still thinking about how to fight wars, he's already figuring out how to subvert the enemy camp, achieve peaceful evolution, and establish a monopoly and industrial chain control. This is no longer a simple tribal struggle. This is a cross-dimensional, god-tier strategic game on the highest difficulty. Suratu. I feel like I'm not fighting a chief. I'm fighting a damn game designer with the whole map unlocked. 100 years? Heh. In 100 years, I might even have a Gatling gun figured out. By then, my friends on the steppe won't be riding horses and shooting arrows. They'll be singing and dancing to welcome us. Anyone who disagrees? A burst of rat-a-tat-tat will have them dancing more enthusiastically than anyone else. At this thought, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. I patted the shoulder of Yuji, who was still worrying about the state of the nation, and said, "We do need to keep an eye on that Surata fellow. But don't be too tense. Next year, we can invite him to the tribe for a study tour." I gave him a wink. Let's open his eyes, show him what Han tribe speed means. If he's smart and willing to merge with us, giving him the title of General Manager of the Steppe Division is not out of the question. But that's all for later, I said, changing the subject. The Jinwu Guard isn't busy lately. Perfect, I've got a new job for you. You'll still be the commander, but do you know what the Jinwu Guard's official function is, besides intelligence? Official function? Isn't it being the chief's personal bodyguard, his private army? Yuji's heart skipped a beat. Why was the chief asking this? Could it be he was being reassigned to guard duty? My God, from an elite field agent to a headquarters security guard? This was too big of a leap. Seeing Yuji's face instantly tighten, as if he were ready to die a heroic death, I let out a chuckle. What are you thinking? I patted his shoulder. I'm not planning on making you stand guard at my door every day. Yuji quickly stood up, his face a mask of loyalty. Protecting the chief's safety is the Jinwu Guard's sacred duty. If the chief commands, I will not hesitate, even in the face of death. Oh, I raised an eyebrow, a mischievous thought entering my mind. You're really willing to come back and stand guard? I could actually reassign you, you know. Yuji's face instantly fell, turning as bitter as a gourd. No, he screamed internally. Chief, this isn't in the script. According to the usual playbook, aren't you supposed to refuse me 3 times, and then I tearfully accept your trust? I was just being polite, expressing my loyalty. Who actually wants to come back and stand guard? Seeing his constipated expression, I finally couldn't hold it in anymore. All right, I'll stop teasing you, I said, waving my hand. The tribe is big now, and there's a lot to do. I want you to supervise a project that will determine the face of our Han tribe for the next 100 years, the construction of our future capital city. As I spoke, I led him towards a side room in the backyard. In the capital, we will build a palace, which will be my new home. The security of the palace will be your Jinwu Guard's responsibility. This isn't just building a house for me. It's also building new barracks for your Jinwu Guard. As their leader, you have to keep a close eye on it. A palace. Yuji followed behind me, his head full of questions. The chief's new home is called a palace? He had imagined a million possibilities, but he had never thought the chief would send him to a construction site to move bricks. No. to supervise. Wasn't it just a new house? How big could it be? Even if it were 10 times larger than his current one, with the Han tribe's current construction capabilities, it would be a piece of cake. Did it really require a commander to personally oversee it? Unless this house had a mine in it? Yu was completely baffled, but he could only follow me in silence. Yes, it's called a palace, I said, pushing open a heavy wooden door. The palace is my home, but it's not just my home. It will also be the administrative center of the entire Han tribe in the future, our central nervous system. All the commandery governors and inspectors will have to obey the orders issued from here. Do you understand now? Come, let me show you something. Creak. The door opened, and a rich scent of wood and ink wafted out. Yuji's footsteps froze the moment he stepped into the room. His eyes widened like saucers. In the center of the spacious room was a sand table, so large it was absurd. On the sand table, mountains, rivers, and plains were all laid out. And in the center of the plains stood a magnificent and majestic model of a city. The towering city walls, the exquisite corner towers, the cascading and imposing palace complexes. Yuji subconsciously compared the scale of the city gate and the human figurines, then imagined himself as an ant standing at the foot of the gate. Gulp. He swallowed hard. This son of a bitch was a house? Just the imperial city alone was several times larger than any existing city in the tribe. And this was just the house. How big would the capital city outside the house be? It could probably fit the tribe's entire population of several 100,000, with everyone getting a 3-bedroom apartment with a small courtyard. Greetings, Chief. The craftsman in the room, seeing me enter, quickly stood up and bowed. Carry on with your work. I'm just showing someone around, I said with a casual wave. Yes, sir. The team of craftsmen, led by Moxion, replied and returned to their miniature world. I pointed at the sand table and began to lecture the petrified Yuji. See, this is the model of the capital city. It's divided into 3 zones. The core is the imperial city, which is the palace. In front of the palace is the administrative district, where the various departments will have their offices in the future. The outermost ring, called the outer city, is for the common people to live. The part one want you to be in charge of is mainly the construction of the imperial city and the administrative district. The top priority is the imperial city. My finger traced a path across the model. The palace is also divided into 4 parts. This front section is the outer court, where I'll meet with the ministers and shoot the breeze. The back is the inner court, the living area. The left and right sides are the East Palace and the West Palace, one for the children and one for the elders. Look, see that courtyard behind the West Palace? That's the future headquarters of your Jinwu Guard. I specifically emphasized that the future capital city would not have a wall around the outermost outer city. Are you kidding me? My future city will have trains running through it. If the choo-choo trains were blocked by a city wall every day, what kind of industrialization would that be? The city wall would only hinder my progress. Yuji listened, stunned. His gaze swept over the exquisitely detailed models, where even the floor tiles were engraved with patterns. It took him a long time to find his voice. Chief, this house is really too big, he exclaimed. Such a massive project. I'm afraid it will take more than 10 years, the work of a whole generation, to complete. Of course, we can't build the entire capital city in one go, I said with a smile. But for the imperial city, I'm only giving you 5 years. 2 years for material preparation, 3 years for construction. In 5 years, I want to move into my new home. Any problems? Yuji took a deep breath, looked at the magnificent model of the imperial city, and nodded heavily. 5 years to build such a miracle. The pressure was immense, but, damn it, let's do it. Voiceover. Yuji's career path be like. I thought I was a 007 in espionage, but the chief wants me to be the CEO of a construction company and the client and project manager at the same time. This career change is bigger than jumping from the steppe to the Pacific Ocean. Suratu is still struggling to counterfeit stirrups, while our chief is already planning the railway transportation for the next 100 years. We're not even in the same dimension, okay? I suspect the chief is not human. He's a god who came down from the heavens to play SimCity. So what's the situation with the land for the palace? Are there any minefields I need to avoid when I get there? Yuji asked, clearly already in work mode. Don't worry, I said with a confident wave of my hand, starting to lay out his marching orders. First, gather the brothers in the Jinwu Guard whose missions are over. Pick 1,000 of the best, and bring them out of the shadows and into the light. I'll also give you 3,000 free laborers. Take them and head straight for Tuahai Commandery. Deshu has already had someone mark out a general area. When you get there, your first task is to have the craftsmen use the blueprints to measure every inch of the land and nail down the construction site. Then, get to work. Dig lakes. Build mountains. Lay the foundations for the palace. This job will take at least 1.5 years. At the same time, have the craftsmen calculate exactly how much of every building material, wood, bricks, tiles, we need, where to get it, and how to transport it. Make a list, especially the stone. The bluestone, granite, and marble from Panchir Commandery are of good quality. Just tell Deshu how much you need, and he'll negotiate with the Tang tribe. Let their stonemasons do the quarrying. We'll pay, they'll provide the labor. It's a win-win. And for the later stages, paint, ironwork, glass, just report the quantities, and the tribe will allocate them. In short, foundations first, material stockpiling to follow. When the materials are almost ready, our other projects should be wrapping up. Then I'll send you more craftsmen to officially start construction. I patted his shoulder and smiled. This should be a piece of cake for your Jinwu guard, right? When it comes to running around and building connections, who has a better advantage than you? Yuji's back straightened another 3 inches. That was true. This was exactly what the Jinwu guard was good at. Rest assured, Chief, he said with a cupped fist salute. I guarantee I'll complete the mission. Also, Chief, we actually have quite a few skilled craftsmen hidden within the Jinwu guard. Oh, I raised an eyebrow, then remembered. Right, there was that. It was my idea back then. Well, that's even better. I slapped my thigh. If you have enough manpower, you can start arranging the stone carving, carpentry, and brickmaking kills now. Speaking of which, I had to admire my own genius plan from back then. When the Jinwu Guard was first established, in order to plant spies in enemy tribes, I did the opposite of what everyone else did. They sent assassins. I sent senior technicians. I deliberately had our top craftsmen casually show off their skills in front of the people of the Niue tribe. As expected, those uncultured fools drooled with envy and begged to poach our talent. Little did they know, the talent they poached were all Trojan horses I had carefully packaged. This Yuji kid had taken my trick and run with it. Skilled people are valuable everywhere. Even if the other side knew you were a spy, they'd be reluctant to let you go. Later, to expand the Jinwu Guard, I had them open numerous charity homes, or orphanages, in various places in the name of the tribe. These children, adopted by us from a young age, were taught to read, write, and learn various skills. The cleverest among them were recruited into the Jinwu Guard and trained as spies from childhood. Over the years, the Jinwu Guard had become a multi-talented technical reserve center. Now that there were no wars to fight, these teenage secret agents, with their unique skills, couldn't just sit around and get rusty, right? Having them participate in the palace construction was perfect. They could practice their skills and contribute to the tribe. Rest assured, Chief, I'll make sure the materials are arranged perfectly. Yuji promised, patting his chest again. Good. I trust you to handle it, I said with a satisfied nod and a grand wave of my hand. Let's go. A welcome feast for you today. You must be sick of bland food after a month on the boat, right? I've had wine and dishes prepared. You and these master architects all come along and get to know each other. I pointed at Moxin and the other craftsmen who were engrossed in their models. Don't underestimate them. They're the ones who built this sand table. Every brick and tile of the future palace is in their heads. Without them, you, the project supervisor, would be a general without an army. Everyone, of course, gladly accepted. Who would dare to refuse a feast hosted by the chief? That would be a major loss of face. At the dinner table, just as I had made the grand introductions and the atmosphere was just right, a guard hurried in and whispered in my ear. Chief, in Xinguang Commandery, the rail experiment has run into a problem. My brow instantly furrowed. I put down my wine cup and said to the others, you all eat first. I have something urgent to attend to. Yuji and Moxin and the others quickly stood up to see me off. I led the guard to a corner of the courtyard and asked in a low voice, what happened? Wasn't everything fine before? Reporting to the chief, the guard said urgently. It's not the narrow gauge rail, it's the heavy-duty rail. The one that's 160 pounds per meter. The steel mill produced a trial batch and tested it on a ramp. The cart was filled with coal, but it had only gone less than a mile when, with a crack, the rail deformed. The cart overturned, and coal spilled everywhere. Fortunately, no one was hurt. My brow furrowed even deeper. The same method, the same test. The narrow gauge rail had handled 15 carts without a problem, and now the thicker, heavier heavy-duty rail had failed with just one cart? This wasn't scientific. Voiceover. One moment, he's a master strategist, deciding the fate of nations from 1,000 miles away. The next, he's dealing with a production line accident. The chief's job description really highlights his versatility, from the grand hall to the factory floor. Seamlessly switching from macroeconomic strategic planning to material mechanics analysis. He's truly the tribe's ultimate interdisciplinary engineer. Yuji, I thought my career change was dramatic, but the chief is the real jack of all trades. The cause? Have they found it yet? I pressed, the initial flurry of panic in my mind already subsiding. They have, the guard replied immediately. They said it was a problem with the rail joint. At the third joint, with a clang, it was bent and flattened. The rails in front of it were pried up, and a row of spikes flew out with a swoosh. The entire 300-meter section just fell apart. The cart overturned sideways, even breaking several sleepers. After hearing this detailed description of the accident scene, I became completely calm. It was just a few rails and a cart of coal. We could afford that loss. When did this happen? This afternoon. They sent a message over immediately. All right. I nodded and began to give orders. Send a message back. Suspend the production and testing of the heavy-duty rail. Clean up the site and investigate the cause first. The steel mill should focus on producing rebar for now. We'll talk more when I get there tomorrow. Yes, sir. The guard took his leave. I looked up at the sky, as black as spilled ink. I simply went back to the courtyard to rest, but my mind was like a movie, frantically replaying the events. High-speed rails are ultra-long, 500 meters per piece, and the joints have to be welded shut to achieve a truly seamless connection. But early steam trains were different. That rhythmic clack-clack was the soul-stirring cry of the wheels passing over the rail joints. Our Han tribe's current technology was stuck in the clack-clack era. 100 meters per rail was already pushing the limits. Think about it. A narrow-gauge rail, 100 meters long, was a 1.5-ton chunk of iron. It had to be cast, then heated until red-hot, and then stretched by a rolling mill. The heavy-duty ones were even more absurd. 100 meters, 3 tons. That was a chunk of iron heated to over 1,000 degrees. It could only be moved with pulleys and chains, like serving an ancestor. If it were twice as long, it would be 6 tons. 500 meters? A 15-ton brazed iron block. My God, the image was too beautiful to behold. The difficulty would be off the charts. I thought and thought until my brain felt like it was polished smooth, but I couldn't come up with an immediate solution. It seemed I could only rely on the tech geeks at the Research Institute to work their magic. The next morning, Yuji came to report his leave, saying he was going home to pick up his wife and children and move to Tohai Commandery. After all, he would be supervising on the construction site for the next few years, and it wouldn't be right to be so far from home. Moxin and his team of master model makers also said that once they finished the sand table, they would pack up their families and report to the construction site. I approved all their requests with a wave of my pen. After sending them off, I scarfed down some breakfast and headed straight for the Research Institute in Xinguang Commandery with my guards. However, when I stood at the accident scene at 2 in the afternoon, led by Lin Fei, I realized that the situation was even more interesting than I had imagined. The rail that had failed wasn't just bent at the joint. The entire I-beam structure was twisted like a pretzel. Only then did I understand how understated the guard's flattened description had been. I pointed at the Tamburendu rail and looked at Lin Fei. What's the Institute's take on this? It's not just a problem with the joint, right? It seems to me that the steel itself is a bit weak. At my words, a flicker of admiration flashed in Lin Fei's eyes. The chief is wise, he said with a cupped fist salute. We've discussed it, and it is indeed a problem with the performance of the steel. Our current carbon steel is, to put it bluntly, a brittle skin. It's not hard enough. When we were running the small narrow-gauge trains, the load was light, and it hadn't reached its limit, so it managed to work. But this time, with the heavy-duty rail, the wheels were the same, but the weight on them was several times greater. The pressure per unit area skyrocketed, and the steel just couldn't take it. That's why the accident happened. I nodded. It was pretty much what I had thought. So, the solution? Have you figured it out? Chief, we're planning to tackle it from 5 angles. Lin Fei said, pointing at the wreckage on the ground with a clear and organized mind. First, we'll lay more sleepers under the joints to make them more solid. Second, we'll add a layer of longitudinal sleepers under the existing ones, creating a tic-tac-toe structure for double insurance. Third, we'll make the rails longer, at least 200 meters per piece to reduce the number of joints. These 3 are improvements to the construction. We also plan to work on the rail itself. One is to thicken the central web to increase its load-bearing capacity. The other is to research a new formula. If we can create an alloy steel that increases strength without adding weight, that would be perfect. After hearing this 5-step plan, I couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. These guys had really grown up. Even without me, the prophet, they could find the right direction on their own. A good idea, very feasible, I said, giving my approval first, then changing the subject. However, I think you might have missed something. Lin Fei was taken aback, his face full of curiosity. Please enlighten me, Chief. I gave a mysterious smile and asked in return, you all thought of reducing the number of joints, but why didn't you think of getting rid of the joints altogether? For example, by using oxyacetylene welding to weld 2 rails directly into one, wouldn't there be no joints? I prompted him gently. By using the high temperature of acetylene to melt the ends of the 2 rails, and then letting them solidify together, they would form a single piece. Although this technology might be a bit advanced for them, the idea had to be introduced. Voiceover, a large-scale technological breakthrough in progress. The chief's actions are a textbook example of project management and technical guidance. First, he lets the team find the problem and come up with a solution on their own, training their independent thinking skills. Then, at the critical juncture, he gives a gentle nudge, instantly opening up a whole new world. Lin Fei. I thought we were already on the 5th level of technology, but it turns out the chief was waiting for us in the stratosphere. This is an intellectual curb stomp. Lin Fei's mind was incredibly sharp. A single hint was all he needed. The moment I finished speaking, he instantly grasped the essence of fusion welding. "Chief," he exclaimed, slapping his thigh, as excited as if he had discovered a new continent. "Your method is brilliant. Pouring molten steel directly into the joints, casting it on-site, fusing it into one piece. My God, wouldn't that make the railway a single, solid piece of iron, with no joints at all?" I casually waved my hand, humbly accepting the credit. "This method is only suitable for heavy-duty railways. For narrow-gauge tracks that need to be switched frequently, don't bother. It can't be overloaded anyway. Technically, it's not difficult. The crudest method is to have a carriage with a furnace, pouring molten steel as it goes, paired with a steam grinder, finishing the job with a shower of sparks." I changed the subject, looking at him. "What I'm more curious about now is your fifth point, researching a new formula, creating alloy steel. Do you actually have any ideas for that?" At the mention of this, Lin Fei's chest swelled with pride. "Chief, it's not difficult. We all know that different metals have different properties when mixed together. Bronze with too much tin is hard and brittle. With too much lead, it's soft and easy to cast. It's the same with iron. Pig iron is brittle, wrought iron is soft. Only when it's refined into steel, with both hardness and softness, does it become useful. So we thought, if we add some other ingredients to the steel, could we create a super steel that's harder and more resistant to bending?" A faint smile appeared on my lips. Well, these tech geeks had already touched upon the essence of material science. The properties of metals are all about playing cocktail, mixing the characteristics of various metals to create something new. "So, have you found the right ingredients?" I pressed. Reporting to the chief, "We have." Lin Fei's tone held a hint of uncertainty. "It's just that, we're still testing the results." "Still testing?" I was stunned. "You have to know, our Han tribe couldn't even fully recognize the periodic table. Trying to accurately analyze the metal composition of a pile of, or was like finding a needle in a haystack." "What experiment? Have you really found a new metal?" I asked urgently. Lin Fei scratched his head, a little embarrassed. "Well, it's not exactly that we've found a new metal. We've just smelted all the iron or sent from various places and compared their properties. We found that even with the local or from Xinguang Commandery, the steel produced from different batches had slightly different properties. So we suspect that the iron or from different places might be mixed with different impurities." I nodded in understanding. Bold hypotheses, careful verification. These 8 words were practically engraved in their DNA. This method, though crude, was definitely the most practical for this era. "So how's the experiment going? Are there any results yet?" "Soon. We should have the results today. Does the chief want to go and have a look?" "Let's go. Let's have a look." Now that the serious business was done, it wouldn't hurt to see some excitement. We walked through the bustling steel mill and came to the train manufacturing plant next door. Rumble. A huge steam rolling mill was pressing steel ingots into wheels and connecting rods. I saw at a glance a train frame steadily parked on a track in the center of the workshop. The structure was just a scaled-up version of the model from the new year. The 4-6-8 wheel arrangement, 3 pairs of huge driving wheels, exuded a wild sense of power. Workers were holding blueprints and installing various parts. On the other side, huge steel plates were being rolled into cylinders, and gas welders were using scorching flames to weld them into the main body of the boiler. Dozens of densely packed pipes were being welded into the cylinder. Thump, thump, thump. A newly invented handheld pneumatic hammer was driving red-hot rivets fiercely into the pre-drilled holes. The entire workshop was like a huge, breathing steel beast, full of life. I looked at the almost finished locomotive and asked Lin Fei, "When can this big guy be put on the line for a test run?" Reporting to the chief, Lin Fei's back was ramrod straight. "Our Endeavor class, first-generation prototype, will be able to leave the factory in half a month at most." "Not bad." I nodded with satisfaction. "Let me know in advance. I must see it roll off the line with my own eyes." We walked through the workshop and came to a large courtyard behind it, which was the Research Institute's territory. Lin Fei led me into a laboratory. Inside, there was only one official researcher, with a few teenage interns. The scene looked suspiciously like a professor with his graduate students. Voiceover, seamlessly switching from a high-level strategic meeting to a frontline research site. "Your work scope is truly vast, Chief. One moment, you're pointing at maps and planning the Empire's blueprint. The next, you're in the workshop watching them build a train and checking the progress of a materials science experiment. I seriously suspect that the chief's true identity is a top-tier engineer and research project director disguised as a tribal leader." In the laboratory, a metallic tang of iron mixed with the smell of sweat hung in the stuffy air. Clink, clank. Screech, screech. Several researchers in work clothes and teenage interns were engrossed in a battle with a pile of oddly shaped iron sheets. Some were pressing them with weights, others were using them as blades, injuring each other, sending sparks flying. Seeing me and Lin Fei enter, they quickly stopped their work, stood up, and bowed. I waved my hand, signaling them to continue, then lowered my voice and asked Lin Fei, "How many types of samples are there here? Where did you get them all?" Lin Fei also replied in a low voice. A dozen or so. Most are magnetite and pyrite from around here, and some are iron or samples from the Tang tribe. I nodded, not asking any more questions, and watched with interest as a boy with a baby face conducted an experiment. The boy was only about 13 or 14 years old. He was vigorously scratching one iron sheet with another, writing and drawing on a piece of paper, and muttering to himself. When he had finished, I asked, "Kid, which one of these is the hardest?" As soon as the boy heard my question, he stood up straight as a ramrod and answered loudly. Reporting to the chief, the hardest is the sample from the Tang tribe. It can easily leave deep scratches on the other samples, and even shave off iron filings from the other samples. Shaving iron like mud. I was instantly intrigued. This hardness was impressive. Oh, can you show me? Of course. Watch closely, Chief. The boy perked up. He picked up a few different models of blades from the side and gently scraped the back of the other blades with the one from the Tang tribe. Screech. A few curly iron filings fell off. But when he used the other blades to scrape the Tang tribe blade, it only left a white mark, not even scratching the surface. Chief, the boy added as he demonstrated, this thing is hard, but it's also too brittle. It's a perfect example of too hard, too brittle. With that, he took the blade that could shave iron like mud and struck it hard against another blade. Clang. A crisp sound, and sparks flew. When he brought it back, the divine weapon was chipped and battered, a sorry sight to behold. Hard, but brittle. I looked at this sawtooth blade, and a thought buzzed in my head, like a bolt of lightning. Isn't this manganese steel? That stuff is the perfect material for making heavy-duty rails. But the problem was, only the Tang tribe had it? My heart sank. Putting aside whether they would be willing to give it to us, even if they did, were we supposed to spend 2 months shipping or from the south to the steel mill in the north for smelting? The transportation cost alone could build another small tribe, build a factory in the south, but there's no coal in the south. We'd still have to transport coke from the north. No matter how you calculated it, this was a losing proposition. Could it be that my ambitious heavy-duty railway plan was doomed to fail before it even began? I fell into deep thought. Lin Fei, beside me, had clearly thought of this too, his face a mixture of conflict and reluctance. Chief, what do you think we should? He began, then trailed off. I could see the burning fire in his and the other researchers' eyes. They had poured so much effort into this project. But reality was a cruel mistress. I sighed and said slowly, let's put it on hold for now. Focus on getting the small train right. The problem we're facing now isn't whether the Tang tribe is willing, it's a matter of cost. Whether it's transporting ore or coal, the time is too long, and the cost is too high. Once the blast furnace is started, it can't be stopped. If something goes wrong on the way, we'll be crying our eyes out. So let's wait. We have the small train for now, and that's enough. As soon as I said this, the atmosphere in the entire laboratory froze. Lin Fei and the other researchers' faces were filled with disappointment. Chief, Lin Fei said after a moment, unwilling to give up. When can we restart it? Simple, I said, giving him the conditions directly. Either you find manganese iron ore in Xinguang Commandery, or you find a coal mine near the Tang tribe. Once the transportation problem is solved, we can produce it wherever we want. Lin Fei sighed with a bitter smile. What was the difference between that and asking him to win the lottery? I patted his shoulder and comforted him. All right, don't be discouraged. Let's get the Endeavor class done first. At least we have something to use, right? If you're really not convinced, send some people to explore the mountains around here again. You never know, you might get lucky. With that, I turned and left the courtyard filled with disappointment. Actually, for the current Han tribe, this might not be a bad thing. Even with heavy-duty rails, building a heavy-duty railway would be a super project that would exhaust everyone. Instead of spending precious manpower and resources on this, it would be better to develop other areas first. You have to eat your food one bite at a time and walk your path one step at a time. If you take too big a step, you're likely to pull a muscle. Voiceover. One moment, he's ecstatic about discovering super steel. The next, he's forced to shelve the project due to its location. This emotional roller coaster is more thrilling than an actual roller coaster. Although the chief's decision is rational and correct, it's undoubtedly a heavy blow to these dream-filled tech geeks. But then again, a classic treasure hunt quest, aren't they? Lin Fei, I have high hopes for you. Maybe you're the chosen one. Shangha Village, Xinhua Commandery. Guan Tao clutched the brand-new identification card as if it were a rare treasure. He brought it closer, scrutinizing the serious-looking, black-and-white version of himself, clucking his tongue in amazement. My heavens, can this Han tribe do magic? They can actually burn a person's shadow onto this golden plate. As he marveled, a clear voice piped up beside him. What's so strange about that? His young daughter said, leaning in with a look that said, you're so out of touch. I've even seen a photo album at Brother Ren's house. The pictures are really clear, much bigger than this, with all sorts of things in them. The commanderies in the north are so beautiful. Oh, Guan Tao's gossip radar went off. He squinted, a mischievous grin spreading across his face as he looked at his daughter. So, you're a frequent guest at the Ren's? Which of the brothers have you taken a fancy to? Rinzwa or Rinyu? Do you want me to put in a good word for you? Daddy. The young girl's face instantly turned as red as a ripe tomato. She stomped her foot petulantly and ran out of the bamboo house, leaving Guan Tao alone at the window, watching her fleeing figure, grinning like a fox that had stolen a chicken. This marriage was a sure thing. Marrying into a Han tribe family was a deal with no downside. Half a month passed, and Shangha village, under the leadership of the Han tribe immigrants, had taken on a whole new look. The windmill at the head of the village was finally built. White flour flowed from the stone mill, heralding the end of an era of drinking coarse grain porridge for hundreds of years. The oil press by the river was also up and running, the water wheel turning leisurely. Although there wasn't much business yet, the new immigrants' peanuts and soybeans hadn't been harvested, and the local villagers weren't used to the taste of soybean oil. Just looking at it was reassuring. The immigrant Dan Prung was even more capable. He found a piece of high-quality clay and built a pottery kiln in his own courtyard. Heave-ho! Heave-ho! He stepped on his newly made foot-powered potter's wheel. The wheel spun rapidly, and lumps of mud in his hands obediently transformed into jars, basins, and bowls. His best-selling items were jars for pickling and large basins for kneading dough. Since the Han tribe immigrants had brought the custom of cooking in large pots and sticking flatbreads to the side, these kneading basins had become a hot commodity in every household. The golden, crispy corn flatbreads, as soon as they appeared in Shangha village, quickly captured everyone's stomachs. Their solid texture and ability to stave off hunger were a godsend for manual laborers. In the past, they drank porridge because they had no choice. After 2 trips to the latrine, their stomachs were empty. Not anymore. Now, with 2 flatbreads in their pockets, they could work in the fields all morning without getting out of breath. When they were tired, a bite would instantly revive them. And so, the most popular delicacy in the village soon became iron pot stewed fish with flatbreads. The villagers of Shangha village were all expert fishermen. A poke with a fish spear, a drop of a fish basket, and plump, fresh fish would continuously appear on their dinner tables. The delicious fish, paired with the golden flatbreads, was a taste to die for. With the flatbread's popularity, the immigrant Xia Li's tofu business also took off. This master chef among the immigrants seized the opportunity and launched his signature dish, fish head and tofu soup. Tender fish heads, paired with smooth tofu, sprinkled with a little salt, and simmered. The milky white broth, the melt-in-your-mouth texture. After finishing a flatbread, a bowl of this soup would warm you from head to toe. The diners, sweating profusely, would mumble with their mouths full, "Delicious. So delicious." Eating dry food could make one thirsty. So Cieli also introduced a sweet version of tofu pudding. The sweetness of the brown sugar, the smoothness of the tofu pudding, it was a perfect match. For a time, this treat became the hottest dessert in the village, sought after by adults and children alike. The emergence of all these new things led to more and more frequent exchanges between the old and new villagers. Just like Guan Tao's daughter, Guan Qing, who went to the Rins every day to learn how to raise rabbits. One day, Guan Tao saw his daughter again, leaning over the Rins rabbit hutch, chatting happily with Rinzwa. "Brother Rinzwa," Guan Qing said, pointing at a litter of fluffy bunnies. "Do these rabbits really have a litter every 2 months?" "Of course," Rinzwa said with a smile. "So when these rabbits grow up, we have to eat them quickly. Otherwise, there will probably be more rabbits than people in the village." "It's okay if we can't finish them all," he said, winking mysteriously. "Back where we come from, it's popular to make sausages. We can stuff the rabbit meat into casings, smoke it into cured meat, and it'll last for years." Voiceover, from the generation gap sparked by an ID card, to the business opportunities brought by a bowl of tofu pudding, and the future foreshadowed by a litter of rabbits. The changes in Shangha village are practically a special episode of A Bite of the Han Tribe, rural revitalization. While Guan Tao is still figuring out how to sell his daughter for a good price, the young people are already discussing the sustainable development of the rabbit meat industry chain. The wheels of time are rolling forward, old man. You've got to keep up. Guan Qing's eyes sparkled, her smile blooming like a flower. Her voice was filled with an unconcealed envy. "Oh my, the Han tribe is like something out of a fairy tale. Living in houses with glazed tile roofs, eating fluffy white rice, and having big chunks of meat with every meal. Just hearing about it makes my mouth water." "Hee, that's nothing." Rinzwa puffed out his chest, his dark face full of longing. "Once we start growing rice here and raising cattle, sheep, and horses, won't the good life follow? Then we can save up some money, build a big tiled house just like that, and fence in a large courtyard big enough to ride a horse in." Guan Qing's cheeks grew warm, as if painted with the colors of a sunset. She shuffled half a step closer, her voice as soft as a mosquito's hum, and asked tentatively, "Brother Rinzwa, after you get your ID card here, will you marry a girl from here?" "Of course." Rinzwa nodded like a chick pecking at grain, a look of utter certainty on his face. "Once I get my ID card and my household registration is transferred here, of course I'll have to marry a local girl. Besides, I don't know anyone else here." Swoosh. Guanqing's face flushed red all the way to her ears, and she wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Unfortunately, Rinzhua, this dense, unromantic man, didn't have a single romantic bone in his body. He still thought the girl was just making small talk, concerned about his household registration. In the midst of this awkward yet sweet atmosphere, a figure walked into the Ren's courtyard. Guan Tao had arrived. In the courtyard, Renzong was shirtless, working up a sweat in a makeshift blacksmith shop. Ding, dong, ding, dong. Sparks flew, and the sound of the hammer was sonorous. He was forging a sickle, preparing for the future rice harvest. This was a big project. By his estimation, when the rice was ripe, each family would need at least 2 or 3 sickles to keep up. The whole village had a huge sickle shortage. Seeing Guan Tao, Renzong didn't stop his work, but simply lifted his head and called out in a loud voice. Yo, it's Brother Guan. Come in, have a seat. There's sugar water on the table. Help yourself. Don't be a stranger. All right, you carry on with your work. I won't be a stranger. Guan Tao replied cheerfully. He grabbed a small stool, sat down at the table, picked up a teacup, and poured himself a full cup, gulping it down. Guanqing, who was chatting with Rinzhua in the courtyard, saw her father arrive and, like a startled rabbit, shyly called out, Dad, why are you here? She still thought her father had really come to play matchmaker for her. Hey, what's this? You're allowed to come and visit, but I'm not allowed to stroll around. Guan Tao said with a smile, gently poking his daughter on the forehead. Rinzhua, I heard from this little girl of mine that you have a treasure called a photo album, and the pictures in it are just like the ones on the ID card. Can you let this old brother have a look? Hearing this, Rinzong immediately shouted to his son, Renzhua, hurry up and get the photo album, show your Uncle Guan, and tell him all about it. Yes, Dad. Rinzhua responded quickly and scurried into the inner room. Guanqing immediately forgot her shyness and leaned in, her big eyes sparkling with curiosity. Although she had seen it once before, photos were such a rare thing that she never got tired of looking at them. Guan Tao saw Rinzhua carefully bring out an exquisite black lacquered wooden box. On the lid was a line of red-painted characters, commemorative photo album for the Qiongzhou immigrants from the Han tribe, and below it, in smaller characters, was head of household, Rinzhou. The box opened with a click, and a thick stack of smooth cards lay quietly inside. These weren't paintings. They were real people and real scenes captured in a small frame. Rinzhua first pulled out a few cards and handed them to Guan Tao, then spread some out on the table and began to explain. Uncle Guan, please take a look. This is the commemorative photo album that the chief had made for each of our families when we moved here. It has pictures of our family, the scenery of our old home in the north, and a picture of our chief. What? A picture of the chief? Guan Tao's eyes widened, and his breathing quickened. Quick, let me see. I've long heard that our chief is young and brilliant, but I've never had the chance to see him in person. The portrait on the copper coins, I heard from the officials, is only 60% accurate, and it makes the chief look old. Look, this is our chief. Rinzhua said with a smile, picking out a few photos from the pile. The chief is only 18 this year. These photos were taken last year, when he was only 17. Rinzhua handed a family portrait to Guan Tao. Uncle Guan, this is our chief. The two next to him are the chief's wives, and the chief's twin son and daughter. Guan Tao held the photo, his hands trembling. The young man sitting in the center of the photo had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, his expression calm and confident. Although he was just sitting there, he exuded an aura of authority without being angry, as if the whole world was in his grasp. This was him. This young man, who didn't look much older than Rinzhua, had, with a single word, mobilized tens of thousands of armored soldiers and a fleet of ships that blotted out the sun, to wipe out the Xian commander who had ruled Bamboo Island for years, causing a river of blood. Guan Tao's mind bust. Looking at the two stunning young women sitting on either side of the chief, their figures graceful, their auras extraordinary, the intelligence and wit in their eyes were nothing like the pig-raising, crop-planting women of the countryside. In front of them stood two small children, 3 or 4 years old, wearing beautiful little brocade robes and small black gauze hats, staring curiously ahead. Daddy, look. The chief and his wife's clothes are so beautiful. His daughter Guanqing's exclamation pulled Guan Tao back from his shock. I heard from Brother Rinzhua that it's not made of hemp or cotton, but from the silk of a worm, called silk. It's smooth and shiny, and only the Han tribe can make it. Yes, it's really beautiful. Guan Tao said, coming back to his senses, his voice a murmur. Unfortunately, it's not for us to wear. No, Dad. Guanqing quickly retorted, casually flipping through the photos. Brother Rinzhua said that in the Han tribe, even commoner women without titles can wear silk wedding dresses. Look, this is one. In the photo, a newlywed couple sat on their wedding bed, the bride in a magnificent phoenix coronet and robes, so beautiful, it was dazzling. Rinzhua also added, That's right, Uncle Guan. And it's not just wedding dresses. Look at this one. This is my sister. Although she's wearing cotton, our dyeing technology is so good that we can dye any color. Isn't it beautiful? It's a pity this photo is in black and white. Otherwise, it would be even more stunning. Guantao wasn't very interested in clothes, but his eyes were involuntarily drawn back to the chief's family portrait. Rinzwa saw what he was thinking, picked up the photo, and dropped another bombshell. By the way, Uncle Guan, our chief's 2 wives are no ordinary people. I heard that before the first wife married the chief, our tribe didn't even know how to weave cloth. It was she who brought the weaving technology. Later, the chief invented the loom, and the first wife focused on researching dyes, which is why we have colorful fabrics now. He paused, pointed to the other wife, and his tone became even more proud. This second wife's family is the best at growing glutinous rice. After she married the chief, she threw herself into the kitchen and came up with a lot of new ways to cook. The tofu, steamed buns, baozi, noodles, stir-fries, stews. A lot of it was taught to everyone by the second wife. My heavens, Guantao was completely shocked. He had only known that the chief was amazing, but he hadn't expected his 2 wives to be such extraordinary women as well. One in charge of clothing, the other in charge of food. They practically held up half the sky of the Han tribe. Was this family a group of gods descended from the heavens? He subconsciously flipped through the photos, and his gaze suddenly fixed on a group photo with an unfamiliar woman in fine clothes. He pointed at her curiously and asked, "Then, who is this?" Looking at her clothes and appearance, could she be the chief's sister? What amazing skills does she have? Voiceover. Comrade Rinzwa, are you holding an immigration seminar here? With a photo album in hand, you're more powerful than 10,000 soldiers. From economic strength and technological level to family happiness index, it's a comprehensive, 3-dimensional presentation. It's the most powerful investment promotion, military recruitment, and cultural export tool in ancient times. Guantao and his daughter's hearts have been completely captured by this small photo album. With this kind of eloquence, it would be a waste not to be a top salesman. Rinzwa glanced at the girl Guantao was pointing at, a bit puzzled himself. To be honest, he didn't know her either. It was on the boat heading south that he heard the well-informed sailors, who were always gossiping, talk about this Miss Tang Yao's background. At the time, his heart skipped a beat, and he thought to himself, "Oh my, has the chief already arranged a betrothal with this beauty from the Tang tribe?" He cleared his throat, organized the gossip he had heard, and began to introduce her in a proper manner. "Uncle Guan, this young lady is not from our tribe. She is the next female chief of the Tang tribe, across from Tuahai Commandery. It's the same as when we sent envoys to Bamboo Island. She's a proper envoy. The Tang tribe is best at medicine. They can identify hundreds of herbs and save lives. We have a great partnership with them now. We teach them how to farm and raise pigs, and they open medical schools and compile medical books in our territory, passing on their family skills to us. This envoy Tang now lives at the chief's house and usually works at the medical school in Riyang Commandery." Oh, Guan Tao's eyes darted around, his mind as clear as a mirror. He was, after all, about to be a grandfather. How could he not see what was going on? A delicate young girl, highly skilled, and the future leader of a tribe, now living and eating at the Han tribe chief's house. Did he even need to think about it? She was definitely the future third wife. It seemed that even a tribe as powerful as the Han had to rely on marriage alliances to consolidate its power. Even the wise and powerful chief used such peaceful methods. Since this was a path even the chief endorsed, wouldn't it be following the will of heaven for me to play matchmaker for my own daughter and this Rin boy? A relationship through marriage is more reliable than any alliance. Once they have a child, their bloodlines will be connected, and the 2 families will become one. Guan Tao's mental abacus was clicking away. "Ahem, we shouldn't speculate about the chief's family affairs," Rinzwa said with a sheepish grin, seeing his "I get it" expression. He quickly changed the subject and pulled out the next photo. "Uncle Guan, look at this. This is the government building in our Hanyang Commandery. 5 stories high, built on a large platform. Isn't it magnificent? Dozens of rooms, and the windows are all made of transparent glass, like crystal. Oh, it's the same material as the cover on our lanterns. You've seen it. And this is the city of Riyang Commandery. Look at these city walls, tall and sturdy. The city is bustling. It has a population of over 10,000, the largest city in our 8 northern commanderies. And look at this one, the docks of Luoyang Commandery. My goodness, count the ships, they're packed together. Those few jetties over there are for our shipyard. The new ships are towed there for fine finishing after the hulls are built, installing masts and sails, otherwise they can't sail on their own." Rinzwa spoke with great enthusiasm, spittle flying from his mouth. The vivid photos were like a series of portals, pulling Guan Tao and his daughter directly into that dazzlingly prosperous world. "Uncle Guan, this is Weishan Commandery. It produces coal and iron. It's also the home of sorghum in our region, the best at brewing wine and making sugar. See that tall tower by the docks? It's called the Morningstar Lighthouse. It lights up at night, and ships dozens of miles away can see it, guiding them like the stars in the sky. Here, the factories of Xingguang Commandery. All the iron of our Han tribe comes from here. The entire commandery has tens of thousands of people, and not a single one is a farmer. They all earn a living by working in the factories, and their lives are better than anyone else's. My heavens. Guantao was once again shocked to his core. Tens of thousands of people not farming, just smelting iron? How much grain would it take to feed so many people? Just this point alone showed that the power of the Han tribe was beyond his imagination. Next, Rinzwa showed him the pastures of my commandery, the salt mines of Nanjong Commandery, and the forests of Dongxing Commandery. Guantao finally understood. These 8 northern commanderies were the heart and engine of the Han tribe. With land, they produced more food than they could eat. With salt, the basis of life. With mines, they forged the steel to conquer the world. With forests and water, they built fleets that could sail across the seas. Everything a tribe needed to grow strong was here. No wonder the Han tribe could be like a towering tree, extending its roots in all directions. After introducing the grand blueprint, Rinzwa pulled out a few of his own family photos. This was even more direct. In the photos, the common people lived in brick houses with tiled roofs, wore clean and tidy cotton clothes, and every family had meat on their dinner table and raised chickens, ducks, cattle, and sheep in their courtyards.